So here is my final project. I created a pathway off of standard MBT1 in 3rd grade, which is use place value understanding to round whole numbers to the nearest 10 or 100. And I just want to make sure everyone knows that I'm just trying to blend my classroom at South Newton because we're not, one-to-one technology, and we don't have everything online. So making it blended and having paper and computers is the best way for me to do it for my students. In my undergraduate class, student teaching, I was in kindergarten and I used playlists where the students had a choice of 10 things and they had to do at least 8 during the week, and they would just color a smiley face or a frowny face if they didn't understand it. So now that I'm in 3rd grade, I think that going to a pathway is a better way for these students to learn, and it gives them more independence, as well as conferencing with me and me understanding if they need more from me. I work closely with Jordan in this class, so if you see that both of our projects have the playlists, we've been lucky enough to piggyback off of each other and work together. So a lot of our projects we've collaborated with and helped each other. So this design came from her, and I really liked it just because there were so many different ways that the students could do it. They could use hands-on technology or just, practicing, because some kids just want to do it on paper and pencil. So the students will start out with a pretest. It's actually on paper, so I haven't linked, but they will get that from me and they'll complete it, and I will see what they know. Based off of what they know, they can choose what they want to do. They can do the hands-on, so they can choose either their hands-on, their technology, or practicing the skill. Each row is a different I can statement. So for this standard, we have 3 I can statements. They can define rounding in relation to place value. They can round to the nearest 10, and they can round to the nearest 100. They get to choose which two activities they like better in a row. So for I can define round or rounding in relation to place value, they will either choose the Nearpod in Splash Math, or the Nearpod in the practicing, or the Splash Math in practicing, whichever combination they want to do. But they have to do 2 of these, and they will color the boxes in. Once they do 2, they will come conference with me, and they will take their exit ticket. Their exit ticket will be either a 1 to 2 quick question little quiz. This makes it short and simple for me to understand if they know. I'll look at their work and make sure they understood that, and based on how they do on those 2 and the exit ticket, they will either get their 4 that they understand, and if they do understand, they can move on to the next I can statement. If they do not understand, I will send them back to do the 3rd activity they didn't choose, and then they will go do that and then come back. If they still don't understand and they don't get a good reassess, they will come to me in a small group at another time, and we will just reteach and relearn this topic. As you can see, I have a Nearpod they can create, or that they can do. It's a self-paced Nearpod. I will see their answers on there. Splash Math, I also can see how they do and how long it takes them and how many they got right, but they have to write their number correct here, so they're accountable for that as well. And then the practicing the skill, in my classroom we have an interactive notebook, so they're just doing this on their own and finding those 3 definitions. We will have already talked about these 3 definitions, and they will most likely be on an anchor chart, so they will just have to use their resources and make sure that they understand these 3 definitions and draw a picture with those as well. For rounding to the nearest 10, I have a game. It'll be printed off and found in the math bucket. For the nearest 10, they can only do 2 levels of the game, so they will have to only do these 2 levels. And then another choice of Splash Math. My kids this year really like Splash Math, so that's a big hit for them. And then task cards. They can go around the room and complete these, and they have an answer sheet to record their answers. I can round a whole number to the nearest 100. They have levels 3 and 4 of the roll it and round it. 10 marks, and they have to say their percent correct, and if they don't get a high enough percent, then that will affect their checkpoint score, which will decide if they have to do the third one or if they don't. And then the last hands-on activity by practicing the skill is just a nearest tens and hundreds worksheet, and it's found in the math bin. Different kind of learners we studied, such as English language learners and the AIG students and the students with disabilities. Pathways, I think, are a great way to help them, because for English language learners, they can continuously reread what they have in front of them. The directions on this aren't necessarily completely as kid-friendly as I'm going to have them when I actually give this to my students, but I wanted you to be able to see what I was talking about while I was presenting it, so some of them might be a little more lengthy than they actually will be in the classroom. So the English language learners can use this to reread, and in my classroom we have the 3 before me rule, so they have to ask 3 people before they come to me. So if the English language learners need even more help, they can go to their peers, and if for some reason 3 peers can't help them, then they can always come talk to me. Another thing that I did in my classroom this year was my student who had the biggest disability, he had a partner, we have a math coach in the classroom, so that was most likely his partner in math, and he would go around with them, and basically he would do, instead of doing it individually, that partner would make sure that he got through it, and if he needed individual help from me, that partner would let me know. And this partner was somebody who knew that he needed that extra help, so they were super good with him and working with him, and they knew that if they couldn't help them, that I could. When it comes to the AIG students, this pathway lets them go ahead if they need to. It doesn't keep them behind. If they get the first row, as soon as they're done, they can go to the second row. If they get the second row, as soon as they're done, they can go to the third row. So they're not waiting on other students, whereas some students might be on the first row, and then those higher learners will be on the third row, and then after they finish this whole pathway, there will be other activities for them to do after that. At the end of this pathway, they will take the post-test. I didn't link it because it is a huge PDF of all different standard-based grading assessments, because we use standard-based grading at my school, so it was a huge PDF, and I didn't want to download that and link it here. They will take this, and if they master that post-test, they will go on to the next pathway, if the next standard. If they do not master it, I will look at their post-test and see, there obviously had to be a reason that they mastered every I can statement and every pathway and didn't master their post-test, so I will look and see if that's either silly mistakes, them, just not taking their time and not being neat, or if there is just a little deficit in one of the standards, and based on that, I will either reteach and retest again with a different made post-test, or I will just figure out what needs to be done for that student. So overall, this pathway just gives students a personalized way to get through the standard, and helps students of all kinds, like English language learners, disabilities, and AIG students, and it just meets the needs of all students without making 20 different things for the students to do, because they can decide how they like to learn. They can choose what they want to do. They get assessed. They reassess. If we need small groups, we do it. They have a pre-test and a post-test, and there's just all different kinds of activities for them to do. So I really feel like a pathway in the type of classroom I'm in, where it's not completely online, but it is blended, is the best thing for my students and my teaching.